Joshua Biden or its restrictions on U.S. investments in Chinese technology?
Since when was that his name?
Jeff is short for Joshua.
It's short for Joseph.
Joshua Biden or its restrictions on U.S. investments in Chinese technology?
Since when was that his name?
Jeff is short for Joshua.
It's short for Joseph.
So senior administration officials said that the effort stemmed from national security goals rather than economic interests, and that the categories it covered, I don't know why I said categorist. I think I'd combine those two words together. The categories it covered were narrow in scope. The order seeks to blunt China's ability to use U.S. investments in its technology companies to upgrade its military while also preserving broader levels of trade that are vital for both nations' economies.
Okay.
Biden officials have insisted that they have no interest in decoupling from China, yet the U.S. has limited the export of advanced computer chips, sought to limit investments into China, and kept the expanded tariffs set up by President Donald Trump. Biden has suggested that China's economy is struggling and its global ambitions have been tempered as the U.S. has re-energized its alliances with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the European Union. The administration
Did you just say that Biden's administration said China's economy was struggling?
Yeah.
What?
I'm not. Biden has suggested that China's economy is struggling.
So they need our help?
No, I feel like you're not understanding. We're moving away from them.
Okay.
We're not so we're no longer investing in stuff in Chinese, like in China, anything that China like tech is creating, we're no longer investing in it.
Okay.
Which would hurt their economy.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Biden has suggested that China's economy is struggling and its global ambitions have been tempered as the U.S. has re-energized its alliances with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the European Union. The administration consulted with the allies and industry in shaping the executive order. Worry about China, but don't worry about China, Biden told donors at a June fundraising event in California. The officials previewing the order said that China has exploited the U.S. investments to support the development of weapons and modernize its military. The new limits would complement the export controls on advanced computer chips that were announced last year. The Treasury Department, which would monitor the investments, will announce a proposed rulemaking with definitions that would conform to the presidential order and go through a public comment process. Okay, so this was voted in a 91-6 vote in July. By the Senate. There are 2 senators from each state.
Yes.
If there are 50 states,
there's 100 senators.
So why is the vote 91-6?
Did some opt out of voting?
How did 2 people opt out of voting? Were they sick?
Did they just hide?
So Biden has called Chinese President X a dictator and the aftermath of the U.S. shooting down a spy balloon from China that floated over the United States. Taiwan's status has been a source of tension, with Biden saying that China has become coercive regarding its independence. China has supported Russia after its 2022 invasion of Ukraine through Biden, though Biden has noted that the friendship has not extended to the shipment.
Did Biden really say China's president is a dictator? Has he checked himself out? Has he looked at himself in the mirror recently?
Okay, yes, but at least our government does not treat us like China's government treats our people.
True.
Our government has not gunned us down.
Not yet.
We could live in, like, actual communism.
We could.
Okay. The message it sends to the market. Okay, so U.S. officials have long signaled the coming executive order on investing in China, but it's unclear whether financial markets will regard it as a tapered step or a continued escalation of tensions at a fragile moment. The message it sends to the market may be far more decisive, said Elaine Desinsky, a senior director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. U.S. and multinational companies are re-examining the risk of investing in China. Beijing's so-called national security and anti-espionage laws that curb routine and necessary corporate due diligence and compliance were already having a chilling effect on the U.S. foreign direct investment. The chilling now risks turned into a deep freeze. China's strong government has stumbled coming out of the pandemic lockdowns. On Wednesday, its National Bureau of Statistics reported a 0.3% decline in consumer prices in July from a year ago. That level of deflation points to a lack of consumer demand in China that could hamper growth. Separately, foreign direct investment into China fell 89% from a year earlier in the second quarter of the year to $4.9 billion, according to data released by the State Administration of Foreign Exchange. Most foreign investments is believed to be brought in by Chinese companies and disguised as foreign money, get a tax break and other benefits, according to Chinese researchers. However, foreign business groups say global companies are also shifting investment plans to other economies. Foreign companies have lost confidence in China following tighter security controls and a lack of action on the reform promises. Calls by President X and other leaders for economic self-reliance have left investors uneasy about their future in the state-dominated economy. This is why I don't enjoy doing stuff about the economy, because so much of it just goes completely over my head.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the reason I did choose this because I wanted to talk a bit about foreign policy. And I was talking to Nat's friend about this last night, and I said, I don't understand why we want to go to war with China. Why would China want to go to war with us?
Mm-hmm.
But like reading this, I feel like we're about to have like a Red Scare part 2, where it's going to be like a Cold War between us and China. What surprises me, and maybe it's because I'm uneducated, but from what the media I'm consumed, I'm surprised that Biden is actually taking a stand and supporting Taiwan as an independent country, whereas many of the leaders, and I feel like Biden is not so like I just feel like the way that Biden I don't know runs our government and like how he is does not scream that he supports Taiwan, but like he's taking a stance against Taiwan, and like that, I feel like that's more of like the White House basement people rather than the actual Biden being like a semi good leader.
Yeah.
And like are we in the end, if it comes down to us having to like defend Taiwan, like should we be like risking should be like risking like American lives to like defend Taiwan? Like it's the same as Ukraine. Like is it that important to us?
Uh-huh.
I know those are all really hard questions. Foreign policy is so difficult.
Yeah. It goes like along with what we said in our America First episode. It's like, at what point what point do we draw the line where we put ourselves first, and where do we start helping other people, and like it's a
And
fine line.
I also just truly like don't know enough about like foreign policy to know rather like if defending Taiwan is in the best interest for our country, because it could be. I just don't know. Like it's
Yeah.
something that I'm a lost on. It's something I'm not very educated on. But I just like want like I feel like it's a very strong possibility in our future that we will be going to war with China in the near future. And Taiwan is going to be part of that. And we definitely are going to be defending them. The question is, like, how far do we go towards protecting Taiwan when they are, like, even though some of the countries see them as their own independent state, like China does it, and some of the other some of our very real enemies also don't see that. And like, do we want to risk American lives to defend a country that can't defend itself?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even an opinion. I'm just like proposing the question because I don't have an answer to that question. Because I don't have an answer to that question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next story.
Yes. Okay, so the Supreme Court made a ruling on ghost guns this week, which a ghost gun is an unserialized and untraceable firearm that can be purchased online and assembled at home. So it's like a 3D printed kits.
So it's like a Lego. It's like a Lego kit, but a gun.
Basically like a deadly Lego kit.
It's like an IKEA table.
Yeah.
You're telling me I could go on the IKEA website and it'd be like and like some Swedish word, but it's a gun.
So the ruling was 5-4, temporarily pausing a lower court's decision from last month that issued a nationwide block of the firearm definition rule and claimed the Biden administration was overstepping their authority by adopting the rule. So, the rule does not prohibit the sale or the possession of any ghost gun kit, nor does it block an individual from purchasing such kit, but this ruling causes them to now have to follow with guidelines. So they can't just, mass produce these unregistered guns. So it requires compliance with federal laws that impose conditions on the commercial sale of firearms. Those conditions include requirements that commercial manufacturers and sellers mark products with serial numbers and keep records to allow law enforcement to trace firearms used in crimes. Justice John Roberts and fellow conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett joined with the court's 3 liberals to allow the rule to take effect. Justice Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch,
Yep.
and Brett Kavanaugh would have denied the application, so they were against this law being passed.
It's an odd thing to have Republicans split so much on that one.
It is. But like I see, I'm like, yeah, I understand they should definitely have to follow like the regulation. That's the one area that I'm like, okay, yeah, let's regulate that a little more. Let's have them, everything has to have a serial number, because this is how the criminals get the guns for these mass shootings or whatever. Congress recognizes that limiting the federal firearm laws to functional firearms would invite evasions, and it's thus broadly defined firearm to include any weapon that will or is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosion.
In the government's emergency application, this is an article about the case. Miss Prologers asked the justices to consider an analogy. Every speaker of English would recognize that a tax on sales of bookshelves applies to IKEA when it sells boxes of parts and the tools and instructions for assembling them into bookshelves. This gets weird. A better analogy would be to a taco kit sold as a bundle by a grocery store that includes taco shells, seasoning packets, salsa, and other toppings, along with a slab of raw beef. Is this just HelloFresh? No one would call a taco can a taco. In addition to assembly, turning it into one would require cutting or grinding and cooking the meat. And until that was done, it'd be nonsensical to treat it as food in the equivalent of a taco.
Huh.
That was the prosecution. What a weird what a
Like the
weird
IKEA one
comment.
makes sense.
The IKEA one makes sense. The other one didn't.
The case will move to a lower appeals court where oral arguments will be heard, potentially leading the ruling back to the Supreme Court. So, as of right now,
Mhm.
it's undecided.
In the comments, which I've never seen the comments done in an article like this, but in the comments, a lot of people are very mad at the conservative judges.
That voted with the liberals.
Mhm. That voted
I
against
can,
it.
I can see how they would be mad because then they're like, well, is this going to leave an opening for the liberals to be like, hey, well, in this case, you guys voted for something that was kind of gun control, but kind of not. But that doesn't
But
matter. This law over here is gun control. You guys should vote with us. Like,
I can see where they disagree with this. This person says it's essentially that kids are buying guns. They can legally buy the parts online, ship to the door, watch a YouTube video, and have a
mm-hmm.
fully functioning gun in 30 minutes. And that's cat just scared the crap out of me. Dude, where did you come from? Okay, so this person said young criminals for which ghost guns are popular will surely comply with these new regulations just like they do for all existing guns. The real unstoppable threat is 3D printed hubs, which are getting better and better each year. These present a real problem as one can print a gun, commit a murder, and then melt the gun away, removing all evidence. There's absolutely no way to stop this.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then someone in response said, "Can I recommend that all 3D printers sold in the USA have software that recognizes the design of a gun and refuses to print it?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like the bigger issue is like this person saying where it's like literally the 3D printer, because like that's the thing with any gun control law. They're like, we're going to put these laws into place. And you're like, well, you can put all the laws into place you want, but a criminal is not going to follow that law. Does a criminal stop because they're told, oh, murder is against the law? No, they still go and do it.
Yeah.
Do they stop? Do they, right before breaking into a house, did they go, oh, this is
Well,
a
I mean,
crime. There's
consider.
laws against this. I shouldn't do this. No, they just do it.
I don't think someone who's about to shoot someone with a gun stops and thinks, "Let me think about the consequences of my actions real quick."
Exactly. So like that's why like any sort of gun control thing, they're really just controlling the people who follow the laws. Like, and that's
Yeah.
not who's over here shooting, like going into malls or going into schools and shooting. It's not your regular citizen. It's literally a criminal who has a criminal mindset. Like they are going in there going, I am going to commit this crime. I know it's a crime, but is that going to stop me? No.
Okay. So explain to me what is the ruling?
So the ruling just requires them to follow the same laws as a commercial manufacturer. So it doesn't
Mm,
prohibit the sale. It's just saying you have to mark them with serial numbers and keep records, which I'm like, that's not going to happen. But yeah, it's just requiring them to follow rules that are put in place for
mhm.
manufacturers. So it's a ruling that has a whole lot of loopholes that can be gotten around.
Yeah.
But it's going back to the lower courts, so and then might work its way back up to the Supreme Court. So we'll see.
We need to do an entire episode where we just focus on gun rights.
this ruling, they're not going to follow it because it's very much like, well, you need to follow these rules. And then like the one person said, like a 3D printed gun is going to cause more issues because literally you can melt the whole thing down. They're just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand like the IKEA bookshelf of guns. Like I just don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about our main topic. I just want to introduce this by saying, a long time ago, the Calista and I were having a conversation. And I assumed Calista and I were on the same page regarding this conversation about how liking trains is a red flag in a man. But in all honesty, liking trains is a green flag for Calista and actually a requirement for her. And I thought we'd been on the same page for months, and it turns out she'd been secretly judging me this entire time.
I didn't say that it was necessarily a green flag. I just didn't think it was a red flag. But I also come from a family of car lovers, so I'm like, it's basically the same thing, just it's trains. Just like it's planes or helicopters. Like, they're all different, but they also are, if somebody's obsessed with them, it's the same as being obsessed with a car.
That's a red flag for me.
Well, you're weird.
Anywho, I'm weird. I'm like 99% of other girls on this planet. Close to, I'm an
I'm
ally towards
sorry I grew up in
all
a car
women.
family.
So, when we were discussing this topic,
How did that have to do with
I'm getting into it. So, when we were preparing for this topic, I thought we were going in on the same page, and then we almost ended up quitting the podcast over this. This topic, I feel, almost tore us apart, so we'll see how this episode goes. But
we shall see.
for the first time, I feel that you and I are clearly coming in with completely opposite opinions on this topic, and I am wondering how this will end.
It's definitely going to be an interesting episode.
We are going to be talking about diet culture, and there's so much diet culture we could talk about. We could talk about early 2000s, like cocaine, skinny diet culture. We could talk about 80s exercise fad diet culture, but we are specifically focusing on diet culture primarily surrounded around social media, especially on TikTok, because TikTok's kind of the source of the current diet culture and stuff. So we'll be getting into that, and then we'll talk a little bit about some mainstream diets, and then we will be answering some questions that have been proposed and some of the and then talking about some of the issues people have with like diet culture itself and voicing our opinions on them.
Yes.
It's going to be a very interesting conversation. And we have to remember at the end of the day that Calista and I have to move in with each other in 2 weeks. And that we are going to be spending a lot of time with each other and in an enclosed space in a very hot state. So if we end up causing really real tension between each other, it'll be incredibly uncomfortable. Here is the source of our disagreement. If anyone's on TikTok, they've most likely seen the non-processed food girl. So she goes through her day and she goes through all of her products, everything she eats in a day, claiming that every single one of them is non-processed. Then Calista and I had a very intense argument about what we think is processed and non-processed. Which I don't think. I think that anything that's made goes through a process. Like the idea of like non-processed food seems insane to me unless you're eating like a carrot out of the ground.
So I view processed food as any of your like canned food or boxed food that has a bunch of additives.
But like anything is processed. Like bread has added preservatives because to make it last longer. Other than like fresh from the bakery.
Exactly.
But what she was eating was like a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
It was like 98% cacao or whatever it is. Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Cacao? Or is it cocoa?
Cocoa?
Is it cocoa?
Yeah.
Calista, cocoa and cacao are two separate words. I swear to you, anytime I read cacao, I read as cacao. It's not cocoa. Cocoa spelled COCO. That's
No.
true. No, that's true. It's cacao and cocoa.
They're both pronounced cocoa, I believe.
No, they're not. I swear on my life, it's cacao.
You don't have a co and a cow. Just like there's no ape and apricot, it's apricot.
Cacao is okay. Actually, I did just prove myself wrong. I don't. What she what
I
she
love
ate.
how you were so adamant that you were correct, and then you were just like, I just
No,
proved myself wrong.
I proved myself wrong on a different thing,
Oh.
but I don't know if I was just saying it was like a chocolate bar. I actually don't know what it was, so I may
Mhm.
be wrong. I may be right.
Yeah.
Cacao is the raw, unprocessed version of cocoa.
Okay.
So that's what I said when I meant I proved myself wrong, but I also don't remember if it was a chocolate bar or not. I was just
Uh-huh.
saying what she was eating was obviously processed,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, there's also different types of like processed food because your canned and your box food has a lot more additives and like
Mhm.
extra sugars and extra dyes and all of that. And then there's more of your processed food where it's like more of a natural process where it's like, well, we used a machine to process it, but we did not add all these extra chemicals and all of these extra dyes and preservatives.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know, like to say something is unprocessed, unless you're like eating like a rutabaga, like, I don't know. I just disagreed with her way of putting it.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, I think I disagree with her way, disagreed with her way of putting it. She could have put it be like cute. She could have just stopped like, here's what I eat in a day without
Or
extra added preservatives.
she could have said a low processed
Yeah.
diet.
But the fact that she like markets herself around, here's what I eat, here's everything I eat living a non-processed food life is not true.
Like I understand she's like, okay, I'm not eating a bunch of box mac and cheese, or I'm not eating a bunch of canned chili. Like
Yeah. Hey,
I'm not an,
canned chili is good.
I'm not a college student.
Look, canned chili, okay, get a tortilla, right?
Yeah.
Get a tortilla, you get a hot dog. You get a hot dog. You cut the hot dog down the middle. You flip the hot dog open. Canned chili and cheddar cheese. So good.
No,
It's like a
no,
chili
no,
cheese
no.
dog, but less bread. We call it a Mexidog, which I realize is now actually probably a racist term.
I um don't like chili dogs normally, other than when it is 11 p.m. at night and there is nothing open on campus and I was starving, okay, because I had no food.
I'm gonna lock you in your room for 2 days and let you starve, and then I'm gonna make you eat a Mexidog so you know how good it is.
I don't even like hot dogs.
Calista, I don't believe that's true because I've never seen someone eat a hot dog faster than you ate a Costco hot dog. It was impressive. Like you deserve a medal for how fast you ate that hot dog. I'm
I
pretty sure
was
she didn't
starving.
chew.
The
I'm-
only time I'll eat a hot dog is if I'm absolutely starving, and it is the only option.
I handed Callista her hot dog. I unwrapped my hot dog. I looked over, it was gone. It was gone. Like you ate it so fast.
Yeah.
That was that. Unless you have any more arguments about this. Not arguments, any more comments.
No, I think I made my points. I
Yeah.
think.
I feel like we came to an agreement. I don't know what the agreement was, but I feel like we came to an agreement.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely low processed things, and there's different like ways to process,
Hmm.
but it's all called processed. It's just some have
Yeah.
extra fluff that's
Mhm.
unneeded.
Yeah. And then I wanted to talk about girl dinner. The girl
Yes.
dinner trend is currently my favorite trend on TikTok. I've never been so seen by this trend, by the way. I didn't even eat the common girl dinner. I saw a girl whose girl dinner was a can of corn and a Diet Coke, and I was like, that is girl dinner.
My favorite one day, I was watching Instagram Reels and it was a girl dinner. It's like just just some chicken, just like a chicken breast, just holding it. I was like, just
No, literally, that's my girl dinner. Everyone saying girl dinner doesn't include protein is crazy. Okay, let me say, girl dinner. It started with this girl, and I cannot remember her name, but it was her posting essentially like I think it was like some Ritz crackers, some cheddar cheese, and like some cheddar and Swiss cheese, and like some turkey. And she was like, "This is my meal. I call it girl dinner." And it was like a whole song. And then people jumped on the trend, being like, "Oh, yeah, it's like in girl dinner is supposed to be essentially like a collection of random snacks that you have around your house instead of like sitting down and making a meal."
exactly. And it's like I feel like depending on the time of the month, it also depends. You will have a really random girl dinner in there where it's like, yeah, I'm randomly craving pickles and goat cheese. I don't know why those were the two things that came to mind.
Sometimes my girl dinner can be Cheez-Its. Or when I was running out of food at the end of last year, my girl dinner was tortilla chips and garlic mashed potatoes. Like instant garlic mashed potatoes.
I
And
mean,
black tea.
mine was ramen, peanut butter, and chocolate chips. I promise I did not eat all of those mixed together.
Mhm.
I did eat
Uh,
chocolate chips in my peanut butter one day because I was like, well,
mhm.
whatever.
Apparently the news has caught on to this and they're talking about how it's all like it's like promoting disordered eating. Which I think I can, which is, I think it's, in my personal opinion, don't think it is. I think that, like, I don't know, people just like, sometimes you don't want to make anything. And so you sit and you eat stale lime tortilla chips and mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I can see how they're like, oh, this is promoting like bad eating habits, but also it's not like we're eating that all the time. It's literally you just have those days
Mhm.
where it's either all of a sudden it's like 10 o'clock at night and you're like, oh shoot, I haven't ate. I guess I'm gonna grab whatever I have. Or you're just like, I genuinely don't feel like cooking right now because I've had a long day, or I just don't feel like cooking, so I'm gonna eat some Ritz crackers and peanut butter.
Or sometimes you're Allison where you randomly feel like cooking a full meal at like 3 a.m. And so you make yourself a full omelet at 3 a.m.
My go-to 2 a.m. meal at school was baked potatoes. Literally, sometimes I would eat just a plain baked potato with butter. Other times, it'd be full-on loaded baked potato at 3 a.m.
No, that's so good. I love baked potatoes. Can we have 3 a.m. baked potatoes?
We can have 3 a.m. baked potatoes.
If you're making a
I am
baked
going
potato,
to buy
wake me
a
up.
bag. I bought a bag of potatoes from Costco, and I would just that was my snack at 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Oh my
There's
gosh,
there's a couple 4 a.m.s in there.
we need to create a girl dinner TikTok.
Yeah, we're
My
like, here's some
friends,
2
one of my
a.m. baked potatoes.
one of my friends' girl dinners is the it's like these little jelly things from Trader Joe's that are
Mhm.
have no artificial coloring in them, and then they're everything bagel crackers with cream cheese, and
Yeah.
there's sparkling peach black tea.
Hmm. Yeah, and then I've had some odd combinations of things at school, especially because you get to the point where it's like, especially where I was living last semester, where I was literally the farthest corner of campus away from everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I need to go grocery shopping. I don't want to leave right now, or I can't leave right now. I'm doing homework. So it's like, I would have to leave and walk across campus to get some food, or it's like, let me collect the random things I have in my room right now. It's like half a cucumber, a potato, and some ramen. It's like, why? I don't know why. Those are the things I had, but I did.
Can someone explain to me the mustard and cottage cheese thing? It's like a trend on TikTok right now. It's a part of a girl dinner. It's a mustard and cottage cheese. I hate cottage cheese. I refuse to eat it.
Yeah, we always do cottage cheese and pepper, and then obviously like cottage cheese and pineapple or cottage cheese and peaches. But I love mustard. Like I eat mustard all the time. Like I love all types of mustard, but I don't know if I would eat mustard and cottage cheese.
I
Why
need
are
a
you
bridge
looking at me like
because
that?
because there were so many things said in the last like 50 words that really hurt my head.
Okay.
Obviously cottage cheese and peaches, obviously.
Sometimes obviously comes out of my mouth and I don't, because that's inconvenient and obviously are things that we always say at home randomly. And so then it will come out occasionally and I'm like, whoops, wrong time.
And then two, the sentence "I love mustard" has never been spoken by anyone before in their life.
Except for me because I probably could almost eat as much mustard as Amanda eats ketchup.
I hate you.
I don't like
Podcast
yellow.
ended.
Okay, but I don't love yellow mustard. But any of the like honey mustard or the stone
Boy,
ground mustards, like any of those mustards, I literally,
that's how we bonded over spring break.
I always what
Our love of honey mustard is what started this podcast.
it is.
Do you like Dijon mustard?
Uh-huh.
Do you like hard mustard?
Mhm.
Do you eat it on kibasas with sauerkraut?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. My dad laughed at me because one day I was talking to him and I opened my fridge and I go, yeah, so in here I have a bell pepper and three things of mustard, three different types of mustard. And that's about all I have in my fridge. And he's like, you should go to the store. I was like, I know. And he's like, I love how you just have like three types of mustard and nothing else in your fridge. I was like, I'm sorry I like mustard, okay? But back to the topic, I don't think I would eat mustard with cottage cheese.
I feel like we only did this topic just so we could talk about food. I think we just need to start a food podcast.
I really think we do because we manage to talk about food all the time.
I think that we talk about food more than we talk about politics.
I think so. Maybe we really meant to say I don't want to talk about politics.
Because we
And then we
actually
just,
don't want to talk about politics, we want to talk about food.
yeah. Instead of we talk about the topics you don't want to talk about around Thanksgiving dinner table, we talk about food.
Mhm. Um, which is funny that the entire vibe of our podcast is like I always describe it to people as two friends talking about politics over a cup of coffee.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's funny because we've only talked about coffee once on the podcast. Let's talk about some issues. Some of people's issues with the current diet culture. Oh, I guess I say current diet culture. And by diet culture, we mean I'm trying to describe what like diet culture is. I would say like specific trends, like trends in like diet. So like the Mediterranean diet, like keto, paleo, or just some of the examples.
Uh-huh.
If you would call veganism a diet, you could do that too. But I feel like that's more of a lifestyle. Same with pescatarian and it's
I have
pescatarian.
some strong opinions on vegans.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not anti-vegan. I just don't like I've had friends that are vegan.
I've also had friends that are vegan.
And then I killed
But
them.
it's very much, like you said, a lifestyle, and that's...
Yeah, like it's more like a lifestyle. Like if you commit to a lifestyle, you commit to a lifestyle. It's like
And
people who
I
do
also
CrossFit.
don't think you should have your child, you should not raise your child as a vegan.
No, it should be their choice.
Like, I teach a family swim lessons, and the whole entire family, like, she's one of 7, one of 9 siblings, something like that. And like the whole entire family is vegan. Well, they raise their kids vegan too. So the one has 4 girls, and then one of them has 2 kids, and then another one has 2. And I'm like, you're raising all your kids vegan? Like,
They're raising 9 kids vegan.
her family did. Like, the mom,
Mm-hmm.
her family raised 9 kids vegan.
That's so expensive.
The other day, I was teaching, and they were talking about going to the lake, and they were talking about making food for the lake, and one of the moms was like talking to the little cousin, and she's like, "You don't like peanut butter jelly sandwiches, right? Or you only like peanut butter jelly sandwiches?" And the girl's like, "No." And then she's like, "So if I make tofu sandwiches, that's fine?" She's
Oh,
like, "That's my favorite." And I was like, I'm like teaching this other kid a swim lesson, and I was like, this family, they're super nice. They treat me very well. But yeah, I was just like, you're raising the whole entire family. Luckily, they all seem like they get enough nutrients. Like, the one little boy's like super skinny, but that's just because like his mom is like tall and skinny. So,
it was tall. Oh my gosh. That, oh my.
but yeah, no, like,
I
I'm just
can't
like,
imagine how much they spend on groceries.
yeah, but like, I don't know. Because meat's expensive.
Yes, but a vegan lifestyle is super expensive.
I don't know at what point, like, the moms, at what point they, like, in their childhood started. I'm thinking they were like teens. I don't think it was when they were little. But
I
I'm
I
just
think it.
like, I don't know. I'm just very against like raising your kids. Like, they can make the choice later on in life. Like, I don't feel like they get enough nutrients that way unless you do it right. And there are some vegans that do it right. They do the research and they get the right like proteins and everything. But there are some that are just like, yeah, I cut meat out because I'm saving the animals. And they don't know how to get the proteins they need.
Mhm. And like, if you want to do it because you're saving the animals and still get the proteins that you need, I'll be all for it.
Yeah.
For
I
example,
don't care. I
I
don't.
don't support affirmative action, so I have
Mhm.
never applied for a Black scholarship,
Yeah,
like a race-based scholarship, nor will I ever. That's me living my life like that. So if you don't support and killing animals for food, then you can't. Then you don't eat. Then you don't consume what is offered,
exactly.
and I support that. But like, oh my gosh, then I guess I can see how you would do that for your kids. Hmm.
Yeah, but I
But then
feel
it
like
also
there's
would
a
be
lot
their
of
choice.
families. Yeah. And then there's also a lot of people who don't know how to get the proteins. They just cut it all out, and then they don't know how to get protein, and they're just like, well, I'm eating 5 almonds, I should be good to go. And you're like, you do need more than 5 almonds a day.
But like, how much protein is a kid eating any? Oh my gosh, this is hurting my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I just am I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I would never be a vegan because I like steak too much. But like,
I love steak.
yeah, I'm like, I would never be one, but I'm like, okay, whatever, you're an adult. You can make your own choices. But when you're forcing it upon a child, like, they literally need food in order to grow. Like, are you just giving them a bowl of walnuts for breakfast? You're like, here's your bowl of walnuts, enjoy.
Oh my gosh, but if you caramelize those walnuts, I would eat that entire bowl. I love caramelized walnuts.
Well, yes.
on a mandarin or on a salad with mandarin oranges.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
And it's like, here's your bowl of pinto
Pistachios.
beans and rice. Like, I was gonna say pinto beans, rice, and cheese, but you can't even eat cheese.
Well, if it's pinto beans and rice, isn't that what like Mexicans eat for breakfast?
I don't know.
You didn't let me get to the question.
Okay, sorry.
Is the relationship is okay? Is diet culture fat phobic?
I think it depends on how it's gone about, like how it's pushed.
Mhm.
Um, I don't
Here,
think as a whole it is. I feel like being healthy is important, but it doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying you have to be perfectly skinny, like, but you have to be a controlled weight where you're not like having health issues due to your weight.
there is like layers to the question. There's layers to the question to get to the
Mhm.
point where it becomes fat phobic.
Yeah.
So you start with this. Is being okay? Is being to be skinny? Is that to be healthy? No, it depends on your
No.
body type. For example, Allison is a beautiful woman of color.
Okay.
I am 5'2", which means that if I eat food, it doesn't have a lot of places to go. It kind of stays in one place. Also, I'm
Mhm.
not 5'2", I'm 5'1". I don't know why I said I'm 5'2". It doesn't have a lot to go. It stays in one place. So if I eat anything, I feel like I immediately gain 15 pounds. But I also, like, if I didn't eat anything, I still would, like, remain this size.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly smaller, but whatever. Like, me being as skinny as Calista would me being a very unhealthy.
Yeah. And no, it's definitely
Mm.
based on like your height
Yeah.
and everything. Like,
Yeah.
as long as it's not I'm just saying, as long as it's not causing like
Mhm.
underlying health conditions where you are having clear health issues due to your weight,
Mm.
like, otherwise, it's like, no, you can be whatever.
Yeah. And then so that's where you kind of go off. So there you're at the Venn diagram. You're at the diagram. You're at the top of
Okay.
the diagram. Is being is do you need to be skinny to be healthy? If you
Wait,
say
are we drawing a pyramid or a diagram?
we're starting a diagram. So
Okay.
I Cliff, let me draw you this diagram.
Okay.
Skinny equals healthy. If you're saying yes to that, like absolute yes, then there is where you can say, answer the question, is diet culture fat phobic? You would say yes, and maybe even has roots in some racism because because it doesn't take into account the idea that all bodies look different.
Uh-huh.
Then, so you pivot over to the other side. No, all bodies are different. Then you go, is the pursuit of getting healthier to make yourself skinnier because therefore skinny equals healthy and to be fat is to be a lesser human being. That goes back over to the fat phobic thing. So it's the pursuit of the reason. Here's the question. The question underneath the question is the reason that you're losing weight, if there's a reason that you're dieting, is what is the reasoning behind it?
Mm-hmm.
What is your goals? What is your intentions? And then
Yeah.
there is where you have to reflect on yourself and say, do I look at someone who maybe has a bigger body than mine, who doesn't naturally look like Paris Hilton and think they're a lesser human being and I would never want to look like them? Then maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
fat phobic. But
Yeah.
if you're looking at it like, I do not feel like I'm in a healthy place of where I am right now, and I am unhappy with how my body looks. And even in that, are you unhappy in how your body looks because you're once again comparing yourself to people who are like naturally super, super skinny, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you're comparing yourself and this, you're saying this is the standard of how everyone should be. And in that case, are you treated like there's like a whole thing? Like it's a very hard question because it's something you have to understand. You have to sit down and have a conversation with yourself and be like, hey, Allison, why do you want to be skinny? I feel like I confused both of us.
Yeah.
This is my diagram.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. Do you have any concluding thoughts on that?
No, I think we covered them all in a very sporadic way, but we got there.
Thank you. Okay. Do these trends promote unhealthy lifestyles?
Again, it depends on all the questions like behind like the why are you doing it? Are you doing it to fit in to a trend? Or are you doing it for your actual health? I feel like that's where it's like you have these two sides. Are you just trying to fit in with everyone else? Especially like with the TikTok diet culture, because like so many of them are like, it's this trend. I want to be cool. I want to fit in with everyone. But then you also have the people who are doing it because they are feeling either they're feeling unhealthy or they've been told they have this underlying health condition.
So I would like to add to this another question. Are these trends unsustainable? Are they sustainable lifestyles?
I feel like it depends.
I think something like keto is completely unsustainable. I don't understand how you sustain on keto.
Yeah.
Or Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers stresses me out. Have you ever sat down and listened to what Weight Watchers is? It's crazy.
Other than the info commercials, no.
With Oprah, I love bread. I eat bread every day.
Uh-huh.
I can eat all of
You want to eat that big lasagna? Go for it. It's like
300 points. I love those Oprah commercials. I have them memorized by heart. Even when I'm doing Weight Watchers, I can eat my favorite things like pasta, spaghetti, tacos. I love bread. I eat bread every day. I love the Oprah Weight Watchers commercials.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's definitely like I don't know. It depends on which one. Again, it depends on how you go about it and if you're doing it in the correct way and making sure you're researching everything and making sure you're getting the correct amount of nutrients your body needs.
I also think like there's just been like I feel like there's like this whole thing where like people do these like crazy unhealthy things where they're like, I got up every single morning and I ran 13 miles in 3 sweatshirts and 2 sweatpants to sweat out all my water weight. And then I would go home and I would eat celery because it would lose calories and I would walk on the treadmill at the same time. And I did that for 6 months and almost died and took Ozempic. But now I'm 110 pounds. Here, let me promote to you this detox tea that helps me get skinny. That's my issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's my issue with influencers do that type of stuff where they did like crazy unhealthy things like take Ozempic to get them to the weight and then they promote something that did not help them at all.
Yeah. It's definitely, again, it's not like everyone's different and your body's different. Your body is going to handle things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you're just hopping on this train of trends, like, you're just going to be more unhealthy or it's going to lead to other issues, if not now, down the road.
And I also feel like these I also feel like these trends, they kind of promote like this one size fits all mentality. Be like, if you take this, you can look like me, and I should be the standard of what everyone should look like.
Exactly.
hmm Like, I feel like it's hard to, like, I feel like you can't preach body positivity and also promote like a certain, like, and promote, like, I don't know, like a weight loss drug or something like that at the same time. Like, I just don't think you can do that.
Exactly.
Okay, next question. Are these trends classic and examples of privilege?
Um, I mean, if you go in a sense of there are people that have the time and the resources to do these trends when there are people literally eating scraps of food that they find on the side of the road, like, then if you look at it from that perspective, it is more of a privileged thing because you have the resources to try these different things. That's for there's people who literally don't have an apple to eat. Like,
High school, I was in my government class and we were talking. I feel like I talked about this, about the whole thing about the Boeing factory in
uh-huh.
Oregon, and they were trying to get the jobs shut down, and like everyone in the class,
Mhm.
there was like half the class was the class full of liberals. Obviously, it was a high school in Oregon. We're
Obviously.
like, we're like, obviously we need to shut down the Boeing factory. I was like, and I was like one of the few people to be like, I don't know if that takes away a town, like the jobs of an entire town of people. And they're like, well, they'll find new jobs. We need to worry about our planet. And then they were like
Exactly.
talking, and then the girl was like, well, my grandpa owns a logging company, and I would rather that he lose his job and be without a job for a little while than him continue to earn money from a logging company. And then mentioned how she was inheriting money from him.
Uh, that just contradicted itself.
And she was like, yeah, like I'll inherit like slightly less money, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Great. That's
Yeah, that
great.
was,
The sacrifice of your grandpa's hard earned like job. Okay, whatever. That made me mad. And but the person who was speaking was talking about how she went to a farmer's market and she was like, we decided that we didn't want to get any, this is where my battle of processed foods began. Okay, so we decided that we no longer wanted to eat processed foods or any foods that were GMO or had natural preservatives in them. And we think it's terrible that anyone should eat them and that it should change for the better. And we went to a farmer's market and we saw an apple, and we saw a bushel of apple, and it said that we were going to have to pay like $12 for the pound of a bushel of apples. I don't know what the actual amount for a bushel of apples is or the right amount, but it was a crazy amount of money for something that is significantly less than a grocery store. And
Mhm.
she's like, wow, are we really going to have to pay this? This is the sacrifice that we're willing to make to prove a point. And it ended up being $2 less. And everyone's like, you're so brave. You're so brave. And I'm sitting there like, does she not sound classist right now? Like, does it not sound like, I don't know. I just feel
Yeah.
like, I just feel like there's like this unrealistic expectation that's set. It's the same with the one size fits all mentality, being like, if you're doing this, then you're straight up killing your body.
Exactly.
Instead of being like, hey, let's examine people's situations and maybe think, hmm, maybe they can't eat like that all the time.
Hmm.
That's my issue with it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think
Uh,
there's ways to do, like, eat healthy and everything, but I don't know. I feel like these trends are pushing it in a bad way. Like, you actually need to do research, not just believe everything that's on TikTok
mm,
or that's on social media. Like,
mm,
do your own research. Like, there's ways to do it. And, like, obviously, everyone has a different amount of time or a different budget to, and the more that they're willing to sacrifice, like, some people are like, well, obviously, I'm going to sacrifice
mm.
like a little bit extra money towards my health because that's important to me. And then other people will be like, well, I'm eating and I'm healthy. I just might not be most healthy long term. Like,
I don't like health influencers. They make me mad. Like it makes me mad and then it makes me very sad and I get mad sad Allison. And then I end up eating McDonald's and like hate watching something.
yeah, and it's because they think they're experts at this and they're like, well, I know I can influence a bunch of people into believing this is actually like what I did.
We could
And
do
they
an
only show what they want to on the camera, and then all these people believe them because they just follow them and are like, oh, look, this person had such a great journey. I can do this too. And then, like, yeah.
Okay. Let's lighten up a little bit. Well, before we lighten up a little bit, I wanted to share some information on disordered eating because there's a difference between eating disorders and disordered eating. So this was comes from eatright.org, which is an academy of nutrition and dietetics. They just do a lot of it. They just bring out like a lot of information on like eating right, disordered eating, and how to develop a relationship with your eating. And this is an article on disordered eating from 2018, but it was updated in 2020. And so they said that disordered eating is used to describe a range of irregular eating behaviors that may or may not warrant a diagnosis of a specific eating disorder. Eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa or AN or bulimia nervosa are diagnosed according to specific and narrow criteria. This excludes a majority of people suffering with disordered eating. Many individuals with disordered eating symptoms are diagnosed with eating disorder not otherwise specified. However, similar to anorexia or bulimia, eating disorder not otherwise specified has specific criteria that must be met in order for the patient to receive this diagnosis, and that criteria also is narrating. This is the most significant difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating. Disordered eating is whether or not a person's symptoms and experiences align with the criteria defined by the American Psychiatric Association. The term disordered eating and the descriptive phrase not a diagnosis. Thus, while many people who have disordered eating patterns may fit the criteria for eating disorders not otherwise specified, it is also possible to have a disordered eating pattern that do not fit within the current confines of an eating disorder diagnosis. So eating concerns falling short of diagnosis deserve attention and treatment as they may turn into more problematic eating disorders and put individuals at risk of serious health problems. So the current symptoms that are highlighted specifically by the American Psychiatric Association are frequent dieting, anxiety associated with specific foods and meal skipping, chronic weight fluctuation, rigid rituals and routines surrounding food and exercise, feelings of guilt and shame associated with eating, preoccupation with food, weight, and body image that negatively impacts quality of life, a feeling of loss of control around food, including compulsive eating habits, and using exercise, food restriction, fasting, or purging to make up for bad foods consumed. Also, like fell asleep standing up over there. You look like a like a mom of twins who can't get like your babies are teething and you can't get them to stop crying and they keep crawling around, so now you're just holding them. Is this what it's gonna be like podcasting when we have kids?
Maybe.
Just two babies.
Mhm.
They said that many people who suffer from disordered eating patterns either minimize or do not fully realize the impact it has on their mental and physical health. The lack of understanding may unnecessarily exacerbate the harm of disordered eating. Detrimental consequences can include a greater risk of obesity and eating disorders, bone loss, gastrointestinal disturbances, electrolyte and fluid imbalances, low heart rate and blood pressure, increased anxiety, depression, and social isolation. I just want to say that TikTok, I think, actually has done a really good job of bringing out like bringing like more information regarding disordered eating and giving more of a focus to it. I think oftentimes I feel like oftentimes, especially for women, it's very hard to get diagnosed properly with something. Um, especially if there's not been a lot of research into it. And like so far, like I feel like anorexia and bulimia, they kind of have like I said, they have like very specific symptoms that you have to meet in order to be able to be diagnosed with it, and then they go with treatment from there. But there's not a lot of like leeway for maybe there's some other types of eating disorders that just haven't been that just don't have a name yet. But we just kind of want to talk about like like Calista.
Yes.
What's something you do to like help achieve a healthy relationship with your eating? Well, do you feel like you have a healthy relationship with your eating?
Yeah, I feel like I do. I don't feel like I eat too little and I don't feel like I eat too much.
Mhm.
So
But do you feel like I don't know if like getting genuine pleasure from eating, but do you feel like you are not like it's not something that you are like constantly like hyper obsessing over? Like every time you eat a French fry, you're like, I'm going to get fat from eating this French fry.
no, I could care less.
And like that's what disordered eating could be. Feeling like they talk about like feeling shame when you're like eating a French fry. Like I will eat a French fry. I'll be like, I ate this French fry and I enjoyed this French fry and I deserved that French fry.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't know. You shouldn't have to earn your food. Although I do that when I'm studying.
Also the same.
If I'm hungry, I'm like, I will finish. I cannot eat until I finish this essay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I also say like, don't feel bad for having like an extra slice of cheesecake.
Hmm.
And like be happy with how you're like be happy and like I don't know, respect your body and like understand that there's not a one size fits all mentality. Plus, do you have any concluding thoughts on this?
No, I don't think so.
I feel like we got ow, I just kicked Matt's computer. I
Ow.
feel like we got out of this without yelling at each other.
I think so.
We agreed on some things, we learned some things.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have been getting like pop-ups for hotlines for disordered eating recently. So yay. Now Nat's computer thinks I need therapy. Okay, let's finish up with some pop culture and we'll call it a night. Three of Lizzo's former dancers have accused singer of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment in a recently filed lawsuit. They also allege that she pressured one of them to touch a nude performer at an Amsterdam club and subjected the group to an excruciating audition after leveling false accusations that they were drinking on the job. So, the suit was filed in the LA Superior Court. They named Lizzo, whose full name is Melissa Vivian Jefferson, which is kind of funny because didn't she play Thomas Jefferson's flute? Prosecutor for the case says that the stunning nature of how Lizzo and her management team treated their performance seems to go against everything Lizzo stands for publicly, while privately she weight shames her dancers. I'm sorry, that's really funny. And
It's
demeans them
very
in ways that
funny.
are not only illegal but absolutely demoralizing. It's illegal, so I don't feel like it's illegal to fat shame someone.
I don't think it is, but the fact that she is fat shaming.
It's really funny.
Last time I checked, she's not like the most skinniest person.
I feel like there's something unethical about us talking about having a good relationship with your body and then proceeding to make fun of Lizzo.
Yeah.
This
I think
too,
part of it's like she is definitely bigger, but I think part of it some of the clothes she wears makes her look even bigger.
yeah. I was saying in the specifically the Billboard article, she looks absolutely gorgeous. Here, I'll show you. Like that's a great outfit on her. She looks stunning.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah,
very
like
like
that
it's
one she doesn't look as huge, but like whenever whatever the lime green one she wore that was like part of it's like just mesh.
Mm-hmm. But
I
like,
don't even remember what
she
performance it
looks
was for.
gorgeous. Her waist is snatched. You can see the tan lines. It's just not great. Like, it's so good. Nails look great. Anyways, the suit accuses Lizzo calling attention to the dancer's weight after an appearance at South by Southwest Music Festival. The singer and her choreographer told the dancer, Ariana Davis, that she seemed less committed to her role. A suit describes as a thinly veiled comment concern about Davis's weight. Represented, and so then um so she addressed the statement saying that she was hurt, saying they were false and unbelievable, which I think is so funny because she came out and she was like, this is false. And everyone's like, I guess it's false. And now like everyone's back on her side.
Mm.
Davis and another former dancer, Crystal Williams, began performing with Lizzo after competing on her Amazon reality show, Watch Out for the Big Girls. In 2021, according to the suit, the dancers were later fired. The third, Noel Rodriguez, was hired the same year after performing in the video Rumors, the suit says. They break down the accusations. The first one, and I believe one of the most popular ones, is coming from the Amsterdam strip club called Banana Bar after a performance in the city earlier that year. The suit states that Lizzo's after parties were routine and non-mandatory, but alleges that those who attended were favored by the singer and had a greater job security. It's like the whole thing about how like the boys club being like, you don't have to, like, technically it's off duty, but like that's where all the deals get made. The suit says. Lizzo then turned her attention to Miss Davis and began pressuring Miss Davis to touch the breasts of one of the nude women. Davis declined, according to the suit, and Lizzo allegedly led a chant goading her to do so. After Davis declined 3 more times, the chant grew louder and more strident, demanding a visibly uncomfortable Miss Davis to engage the performer. When Davis eventually when Davis eventually briefly touched the performer, the group burst into laughter, the suit says. Afterward, Lizzo allegedly pressed a member of her security staff to get on stage and began yelling, "Take it off," according to the suit. The plaintiffs were aghast with how little regard Lizzo showed for the bodily autonomy of her employees and those around her, especially in the presence of many people who she's employed. A week later, after a show in Paris, Lizzo invited her dancers to a club so they would be able to learn something or be inspired by the performance, the suit says. When Lizzo failed to mention when inviting the dancers to this performance that it was a nude cabaret bar. The suit described the performance as artful, but plaintiffs were shocked that Lizzo would conceal the nature of the event from them, robbing them of a choice not to participate. So, I kind of wanted to break down that one. It's like the whole thing. I like feel like, I don't know, like if you have someone who has that much power over you as an employer, it's like really hard to say no, especially when she's like getting like an entire mob of people to essentially shout at you in a public place. And so like I understand where this, like, I don't know, like I understand where you could say like sexual, I don't know what allegations you can do that for. Like, is that workplace harassment, even though they're not technically there as workers, but like it's kind of like an underground thing that you kind of have to be there in order to get good spots? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Mhm. So then they said there's comments regarding racial harassment, saying that they were not compensated enough and that there's something about women of color that were compensated less. I really don't know about this, but I do know. But they do say that Quigley, who's the dance captain, basically in groups like this, the dance captain is kind of the person who usually will knows the choreography, maybe helps um, maybe helps choreograph and kind of runs the practices. So she'd be a kind of second charge. According to the suit, they said that Quigley preached her Christian beliefs and took every opportunity to proselytize any and all in her presence, regardless of protestations. After discovering that Davis was a virgin, Quigley discussed the subject in interviews and posted about it on social media.
That's
And when the cast members asked her to stop pressuring Rodriguez about whom Quigley regarded as a non-believer according to the suit about her faith, Quigley responded, "No job, and no one will stop me from talking about the Lord." That's really inappropriate.
yeah.
So the two dancers were fired in April of May because they brought up because of one of the girls, because they were subject to a 12-hour rehearsal. And during the rehearsal, Davis was so fearful she'd lose her job. She went to the if she went to the bathroom that she soiled her pants. She was given a see-through outfit with no undergarments to finish the performance, the suit says. When Lizzo raised the issue again the following day, Williams responded saying the dancers and they said something about drinking. Sorry, this is from earlier. And then so they just brought up things about the castmates drinking beforehand and saying that. And so the dancers brought it up as an issue, and Lizzo kind of dismissed it, and then the two of them were fired. So there's that. And then yesterday, 6 more people also came out about her and saying they were pressured to, they said that they were subjected to a sexual harassment and a hostile work environment that included allegations that they were pressured to touch nude dancers during a live sex show. Calista, do you think that Lizzo is guilty?
I think there's definitely spots where she definitely overstepped.
Hmm.
But it's
But
also
do you think
hard
these
because, like,
allegations are true?
I feel like the details, it's like they're very detailed. They don't sound like, oh, I'm making up a story. Let me just add these very random things and put them together. They're very specific.
Let me read this comment because I was a little unsure of whether I thought she was actually guilty or not. And then I saw this comment from her. So last Thursday, Lizzo issued her only response to date to the suit, calling the allegation false and sensationalized story in a statement on Twitter. Why would you respond on Twitter? I don't know. She says, "I am not the villain that people in the media have portrayed me to be these last few days. I am very open with my sexuality and expressing myself, but I cannot accept or allow people to use that openness to make me out to be something I am not." And that, I would say, is proof to me that not these allegations are true.
Mm-hmm.
Because for her to say, she did not say, "This did not happen." She said, "I am open with my sexuality and expressing
Yeah.
myself," which means that these did happen. You took it too far and you refused to admit that you made your employees feel uncomfortable and you thought you could get away with it because you're Lizzo.
Yeah. And like it's hard because like technically they didn't happen like on the clock essentially, but
Mhm.
they were also they felt as if they were pressured into going to these events because they weren't going to get the positions that they wanted or the roles that they wanted.
Mhm. So there is a filmmaker named Sophia Nahali Allison, who at one point had been attached to her documentary called Love Lizzo. And she said she made a statement on why she left the project. And she said, "In 2019, I traveled a bit with Lizzo to be the director of her documentary. I walked away after about 2 weeks. I was treated with such disrespect by her. I witnessed how arrogant, self-centered, and unkind she is. I'm not protected and was I was not protected and was thrown into a crappy situation with little support." Allison also said her gut told her to leave the project and that she's grateful that she did, adding that she felt gaslit and was deeply hurt at the time Liz's reps had not returned Goldberg's request for calling on Allison claims. Um, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, So she lost on August 3rd when this came out. She lost over 154,000.
I think you
154,000.
said that 154. 154,000. I feel
Okay.
like that was exactly the numbers you had me read the last episode for you.
Okay. So she says that they're false accusations.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was, and so then today, well, 2 days ago, lawyers in Lizzo's sexual harassment suit by former dancers say 6 more people have contacted them. So that's kind of up to date on everything that is going on.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything more, I will bring it up in next week's episode.
Sounds good.
As for my concluding thoughts, do I think she should be sued over this? That I'm honestly quite not sure. But I hope we get to see a trial because I think it'd be very uncomfortable and very funny to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Just having to explain everything that goes on in an incredibly serious situation in a silent courtroom is so
Yeah.
funny to me.
I don't know. I feel like it's hard because, like, if this was a workplace, like, if it was actually, like, obviously they're not on the clock, but if they were actually performing and these things happened, it's like, well, then you could sue the person for workplace harassment. But, like, because it was kind of like off the clock, under the ground thing, it's like, well, can you sue this person? Because now you're just
But
suing
it's
them.
also like a contract thing. Like, think about it like this. Like, it's not like they were doing it in one place. It's while they were traveling on tour. So they were contracted to be there, which does not mean technically they're always on the clock.
And here is in the episode is where we actually got cut off from the internet. So I am going to be doing our brief conclusion today. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of I Don't Want to Talk About Politics. Make sure to check us out on Instagram at IDW_podcast as well on TikTok. Also, check out our personal Instagrams at ally.joy173 and at CalistaJ1776. Also, make sure to check out our new website, which is idwtap.com. It should be linked in the description below. You can check out our references on there, our activism stuff, our blog, all that type of stuff. As for next episode, we will be doing a debate style episode where we are going to be talking about discussing politics in church and kind of defining what the separation of church and state actually means. Thank you so much again for listening this week. We'll see you next episode.